Good evening, guys. Very nice to be here. I like doing stand-up. It's very nice that anyone will come and watch me do stand-up, but I get very anxious about it, and I'll often lie to people about what I do, especially when I'm travelling. I took a taxi to a gig in Bristol a few months ago from the train station, and because it was a taxi from the train station to a comedy club quite close to showtime, he sort of worked it out. He said, "Are you a comedian doing a show at the gig?" And I immediately said no, because I didn't want to have to tell him a joke. And I panicked and felt insecure because he'd sort of worked it out, and I felt that, obviously I owed him at least some degree of truth, so I decided to throw him a sort of halfway house bone of a lie. I said, "No, I'm actually going to the club to direct a friend who's doing a comedy show at the club." What a pointless halfway lie that was. So what then happened, he said, "All right, your friend's a comedian, tell me one of his jokes." And we were right back at square one. Except a far worse version of square one, where he was under even less pressure to laugh than before. So I told him one of my friend's jokes. There was an awkward silence. He didn't laugh. He then said, "Is that one of the ones that you helped him write?" And I said, "No, that's one of his old ones. I'm going to try and help him write some better stuff." And he said, "Oh yeah, shouldn't be hard." And then I laughed. What a curious pickle to have reverse part myself into. I don't know if you've ever done this in your own lives, guys. Created yourself as a sort of third-party separate entity and started laying into your own life's work to bond better with a cabbie. I'm proud of who I am and what I do, but I'm also an evasive man prone to lying, and we were getting along so very well. A lot of my sort of stress in the course of my life has come from just sort of social awkwardness in general, mainly because I spent most of my life at an all-boys boarding school. I'm not complaining about that fact. It made me the man I am today, insecure, repressed, very good at ancient Greek. I couldn't pleasure a lady, but I could translate the Odyssey. I went away to an all-boys boarding school from quite a young age, though, and it was quite a sort of stressful time. I was very homesick when I was there, and I developed a very minor form, and I'm aware there are much more sort of serious forms of it out there, but for about a year, of essentially obsessive-compulsive disorder, where every night at lights out, 9:30 p.m, 9:45 reading time, in bed by 9:30, reading till 9:45, those were the rules. And then lights would go out, and I would conduct a series of checks in my room, that everything was sort of in place, that nothing was going to fall off any shelves, as if that would be the sort of worst thing in the world to happen, that all electrical appliances were unplugged. And it would take me about an hour, and I would do this every single night until I told my parents about it. And they sent me to talk to a local GP about it, and he convinced me that I didn't have to do that anymore. What made it harder, though, was that at about a similar sort of time every night, older boys in the boarding house would be running around the house conducting what they referred to as the wank patrol. And one of the lowlights, I think, of my entire sort of teenage life, shouting at a bunch of older boys, "I'm not masturbating, I'm just doing my checks." I was quite nervous around people at my school, quite nervous around the opposite sex. There weren't a lot of, obviously, or indeed any girls at Eton, but we did have socials with local girls' schools on Saturday nights, which were encouraged to attend. I tried to sort of get over my sort of insecurity by being a more confident person there, and was encouraged by my parents to sort of try and really sort of, embrace my awkwardness and sort of, and sort of get out of it by doing something out there, which brings us to the Wickham Abbey Eton College Karaoke Social of March 2004. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been as teenagers to a karaoke social. What I would advise is if you're not already a particularly popular child at school and you don't really know how to talk to girls, keep a low profile during the karaoke social. Don't sign up when everyone else has been doing sort of group sing-alongs, sometimes all male, sometimes all female, sometimes mixed. Don't sign up to do a solo performance of Linkin Park's Somewhere I Belong. Some of you will remember the disappointing lead single off the commercial flop of a second album. That was my song. That was my destiny. I put my name down to sing it. I then became absolutely obsessed with the fact that other people were going up to sing who had put their names down after me. I became very angry with the DJ in question, the man in charge of the karaoke. I kept bothering him about when I was going to have my turn. And then suddenly it was 10 p.m. and it was time to all get on the bus and go back to school. And I resented him for about a year until I talked to someone about this, and they said, "You don't realise that man probably saved your entire teenage years from being just about 1,000,000 times worse than they possibly could have been." And it's now the source of quite a few recurring nightmares that I'm on stage having to do it, lest we forget, voluntarily by my own choosing. A lot of my stress as well came from work. I liked sort of working hard and wanted to sort of do well in things because that was sort of all I had for a long period of time, but I wanted to take it very seriously. Probably a low point was I did Russian at university, which meant that I'd take a year abroad to Russia. I was already quite scared of sort of going abroad. I'm sort of not a hugely sort of confident person in terms of those sort of big sort of leaps sort of socially or culturally. So I spent a lot of my year abroad at home, particularly over the Easter period. My parents started asking me when I was going back to Russia, and that starts off as sort of general family chit-chat and starts to become more and more of a ticking clock. When are you going back to Russia? And the problem was I'd signed up for a visa, but because of my disorganisation, I'd done it wrong, and so there'd been a 3-week delay. And I couldn't bring myself to tell my parents that essentially my poor paperwork had meant that I was going to be in the UK for another 3 weeks. So I constructed probably the most elaborate lie that I've ever done in my life, where a friend of mine who had a free house said that I could stay there for 3 weeks. So I said to my parents that I was going to Russia, moved about 10 miles away within Wiltshire, did a massive Tesco order and bunkered down, convincing myself that I was working towards my degree by playing FIFA with the commentary in Russian. That was as total immersion as I got. And it's a sort of peculiar kind of stress you've built for yourself when you're sending your parents emails and they're asking for photos of a St. Petersburg that you just haven't been to yet. Google imaging, Google saving, sending them across, parents saying, have you got any photos with you? And you say, I'm too nervous to ask anyone to take a photo of me. You know, my Russian's very weak. Selfies will come, but not yet, crucially. I think that's largely. I think there's probably a bleak enough insight into my many failings, and I hope it's been enjoyable to you guys. I've been Ivo Graham. Thank you very much for listening to me. Goodbye.